Welcome to Dig It, a real estate podcast by Hubbell Realty Company.
Hello, I'm Rick Tollakson. I'm President and CEO of Hubbell Realty Company. Today I have a special guest with us, President of the Iowa Association of Business and Industry, Mike Ralston. So, Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be with you.
Yeah. So, I've been on the board of ABI for a number of years now. We've known each other for a very long time. A lot of people may not know you. So why don't you tell us about your career? You can really start from college, because by that time, that's what's really exciting.
That'll put everybody to sleep. They won't have to listen to anything else.
Not at all.
Well, okay. I'll start when I first came to Des Moines. I came to Des Moines in 1988 to run a local government research bureau, and then went to a corporate tax policy organization. And from there, went to U.S. West and worked for Teresa Waylard, whom I know you know.
Yes, I do.
And I tell everybody when I got to U.S. West, the share price was $32, and I worked as hard as I could every day for 3 years, and sure enough, I got it down to about $3. So that's the way that worked. But while I was at U.S. West, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA, but my background is in corporate taxation, so I had a little bit of a focus on that, but I also had done government relations, so I did that with the Iowa General Assembly and the governor, and then represented U.S. West with the congressional delegation. And when I was working with the Iowa General Assembly, I met a state senator from southeast Iowa named Tom Vilsack. Mm-hmm. And he became governor, of course, and the longtime director of the Iowa Department of Revenue, Jerry Bear, retired, and Governor Vilsack called me, and this is a verbatim conversation. I'm telling the truth. He said, "Hey, I'd like you to come and join the administration as the director of Department of Revenue." He's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but that didn't have anything to do with this situation. But I said, "Oh, Governor, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not dumb enough to do that." And he said, "I think you are, and I'm going to talk you into it." And he did, and I really enjoyed working in that administration and working on tax policy for the state, and did that for about 3 years, and then that takes us up to 2005, and that's when I came to ABI, the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. And what that really means is I work for you, because yes, you are on the board, and we appreciate your leadership very much.
Yes, it's been a great organization. So give us just a few of, it's been almost 20 years, mm-hmm. Okay, which is a pretty long career. Mm-hmm. I can say that because I've been at Hubbell 40 years.
I was going to say, I'll bet it's like double that, and it sure is.
And but what are your highlights? Just a couple, 2 or 3 things you say, these were kind of special moments for me.
Okay, a couple things. And the first thing I probably ought to say is one highlight is when I came to the organization, it was about 100 years old, a little more than that. And one of my highlights is that it's still around, because I will tell you in the beginning it was a little dicey. The organization needed some help, and thankfully, thanks to good board members like you and others, we were able to turn the ship around, and the organization is really in a strong place now, and that's thanks to great leadership by the board of directors. So that's one highlight. Another highlight was working with a great team. When I came, I really wanted to make sure that we had staff people who were the kind of people that other people wanted to hire. And so we really worked hard to build up the team, and it's a great team, and I feel real fortunate to get to work with them every day. So that's a second highlight. And the third highlight, I suppose, is when I came to ABI, it was sort of seen as a right-wing political organization. And it does so many more things in public policy. And so over time, I think we've made sure that people understand that public policy advocacy is one part of what we do. But as you know, from being a member of our Political Action Committee Board of Directors, I don't know of an organization, and again, I'm being serious when I say this, that endorses more elected officials and candidates of both parties than does ABI. I always say, if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Whig or a Tory, if you support business, we'll support you. And so that's one thing. But as a part of that whole getting past this right-wing political organization, we've really expanded to do so many other things now. You don't need it Hubbell, because that's a very sophisticated organization, but we have some folks who come to us for help with identifying capital, mm-hmm. and connecting to capital, and we'll help them do that. We help people with product design issues. We don't do it, but we connect them to the people who do. We, might help them with an environmental issue, with all sorts of things. And those kinds of things, business services are really a key part of what we do now. And then lastly, when it comes to this part of what we're talking about, I'll say that the programs of the ABI Foundation have been really important. Programs like Leadership Iowa that I know you know well, that serves everybody across the state and has made a big difference. Business Horizons, which is a week-long entrepreneurial camp for high school students. And I'll tell you, the interesting thing about that is we bring about 75 kids into a college campus every summer, and boy, they don't want to be there. And they want us to know they don't want to be there. You know, their parents made them come, or a high school counselor said you should come. And by the end of the week, they've made a lot of friends. They found out they can have a great career here in Iowa, and they don't want to leave. So that's kind of fun. Those are the things I'd say.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes too, just so people can learn a little bit more about that program. Especially, I know we're headed into winter, but as we look into next year, I'm sure that enrollment starts sooner than later.
Oh, it does, Claire. So thank you for doing that. That's great.
Yeah, Leadership Iowa was a great thing. I had some great friends that were on Leadership Iowa with me. We still connect a variety of things. My son and my daughter actually went to Business Horizons.
Oh, terrific!
And my son is right down the street. He's an entrepreneur, and so is my daughter. Her and her husband have a vet clinic in Ankeny. So,
great.
Yeah, and then you also have the university program, right? Mm-hmm. I think I was a mentor for one of the students on that as well.
Leadership Iowa University. And so the goal with all those programs is to make sure students are connected to Iowa employers and, again, know that they can have great, really rewarding careers here. And, again, by the time they're done, we think we've helped them make connections.
Yeah, I hope a lot of people listening today, if they have children, grandchildren, Business Horizons would be great for them. And just getting into Leadership Iowa, I've been in the Greater Des Moines Leadership Institute. You get to know a person pretty well. You spend the night with some people. You get to know them really well.
Yeah,
it was a great experience.
Good. Yeah, I think we still work hard to make it that great experience.
One of the things that I've noticed, it doesn't really affect us so much, but you've done some major things with advanced manufacturing. And could you tell us a little bit about what you've done and why that's so important to the organization?
Well, I will talk about that. I don't know whether all the listeners do, that ABI started as the Iowa Manufacturers Association. It was created in 1903. That's what it did for about 80 years. And in the mid-1980s, the board decided to expand and include businesses of all kinds. But ABI is still Iowa's Manufacturing Trade Association. And so we work hard to build up manufacturers, and we found that if we do that, other businesses come along. But I don't know, I'm going to say it was like 10 years ago, we realized that we needed to do more. We needed to make sure manufacturing in the area was strong. We're so lucky in Iowa to have great global manufacturers like Deere & Company and Collins Aerospace and so many, Arconic, you name it. But we're also fortunate that there are a ton of smaller manufacturers, not too small, but privately held, oftentimes family-held companies in Iowa, people that you work with, like Atlantic Bottling here in town in Atlantic, and Lyle Corporation in Clarinda, and Agri-Industrial Plastics in Fairfield. I could go on, but those are really great businesses. Mm-hmm. And our goal was to make sure that they had the financing they needed, they had the help they needed when it came to R&D, that they had the help they needed, especially with workforce, to continue to build their business. And again, the good news is they're all really solid companies, and we've just tried to support what they're doing. But we have spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, in fact, don't you have an annual kind of advanced manufacturing? Once again, I don't really, not my area, but I do get all the emails, right, and I do read them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we do have an annual advanced manufacturing conference, and I might back up and say in response to your previous question that one of the things that's been very exciting is to work with, again, the state legislature and the governor, and it's been a very bipartisan effort on Manufacturing 2.0 in Iowa, and that's a program to support manufacturers, to help them build up and to help them skill up, and it's been really great to see that. We're grateful for the work that the governor and the legislature have done in that regard. But at this manufacturing conference, we work really hard to have speakers and workshops that, again, help these manufacturers do things better. If we're going to ask them to take a day out of their plant, we better make it worth their while. We found something interesting, and I don't know what your take is on this. You've been to a lot of ABI meetings. We used to pay a lot of money for these terrific national speakers at this manufacturing conference, And we found out that really what our members wanted to hear from, who they wanted to hear from, were other manufacturers. And that, if the folks at Stellar Industries and Garner had an issue and they dealt with it and they had success, that's who other manufacturers in other parts of the state want to hear from. So it's been a good budgetary move, but I think it's also been added a lot of value for those who attend.
Yeah, I think it makes the conference a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I hope so.
And speaking of conferences, one of the highlights of my year over year is the annual conference.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the annual conference. I know you have one in the planning sessions right now. You can tell us a little bit more about them because they're pretty interesting.
Well, thanks. I mean it. It means a lot to me to hear you say that because, again, you're a busy guy. We appreciate you coming every year, and so many people do. So we have this 3-day convention, and somewhere around the office I've got a legal pad with a bunch of things on it, and like one of the top things was get rid of this 3-day convention. Nobody wants that anymore. Well, I'm lucky that the board didn't fire me right away because they want this. They just want it to be good. And so we kind of rechristened it and redeveloped it some years ago. It's now called the Iowa Taking Care of Business Conference because that's what we hope people are doing, taking care of their business. It's held in June every year at a different site around Iowa. For like 40 years, it was held or maybe 50 years, held in Okoboji. And we found out that we can create some energy and excitement if we go different places. So now we host it all over Iowa. Also, we outgrew Okoboji. We couldn't hold it there now.
No,
it's way too big. And so we bring people in to that conference. We do have some pretty big speakers. We've had Jim Collins, the author of Good to Great. We've had
Gino Wickman was one of them.
Yeah, Gino Wickman was terrific. His book Traction was the focus of that one. We've had Peggy Noonan from the Wall Street Journal, lots of other folks. I remember one year we had Dick Vitale, and some people said, we don't want to hear from another sports person. What's the deal? He turned out to be fabulous.
Yes.
He really was good. Anyway, so we try to get national speakers, and again, we have workshops, and it's kind of interesting. I think every year we have like 16 workshops, but we get 102, 103 submissions that people want to, and so it's very competitive.
Oh, that's good to know as we potentially prep a proposal. That's a very good insight to have.
So it's very competitive.
But I'm sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, we do that. There are some fun things, that I don't know that you play all the time, but we have a golf outing and we do other alternative activities, and there's a social network. But I'm told all the time that the best part of the conference is that people connect with each other and, again, talk about their business and what's going right, what's maybe not going so well. And
I've heard it's zero fun whatsoever as well from some of the people we've had attend. And one of those people asked him, Matt Daniels with Origin Homes team, going back to the workforce component, they're building out in Manning. They're doing some workforce housing out there, and that has Puck Enterprises.
Oh, yeah, a great company.
Awesome example of local leadership, family-ran business that's now international, but they've invested and they built their own restaurant in town, and they have some other components that they're working on, but they've been stellar from a manufacturing standpoint, a business standpoint.
Oh, they have, Claire. You're right to bring them up, and they're a great example of somebody that truly is invested in their community and makes things happen. You mentioned Origin Homes, though, and I've got to say, that is one of the things we're most excited about at ABI.
Oh, good.
Everybody needs housing. It seems like you go to any community in Iowa. So I can't tell you, and this isn't BS, I'm not trying to polish you up or anything. I've talked a lot about Origin Homes, and I know all of our people have, and we think it's a pretty cool initiative you got going there.
Yeah, it's been very successful so far, and we have a lot of growth, of course, planned for that organization. Claire's very involved with Origin Homes. She's in charge of marketing for Origin Homes.
I mean, it's fun. Well, it helps that a rural background, right? Three-time elected mayor of Grundy Center. I had to say it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that seems like 100 years ago. I will say that, so I was 18. I decided I was going to run for mayor. I was going to school and managing the grocery store to pay my way to school, and the incumbent was a nice guy, but he doesn't seem so old now, but then he seemed really ancient, and I thought, I'm going to do this. I won't win, but I'll get some good experience, and so I did run, and I worked hard at it. And I won, and I think it's mostly because it's a small town. Everybody knows your parents, and so I probably won off their back. But I will say that what it did is I really enjoyed it, but it cured me of any desire to ever run for any political office ever.
I can imagine.
There's political ties, though, in what you've done over the course of your career. And so going back to workforce, can we talk a little bit about just the workforce in Iowa, where it's at, where it's headed? Just some of both of you have, I think, strong opinions about just bringing, retaining, and attracting quality workforce.
You're the master of that at Hubbell, so.
Well, we work hard at it, trying to, a lot of things that we do is we look at and say, what's it going to do to help recruit a workforce and retain the workforce we have? As you well know, it's very competitive out there. There's 50 states all doing what we're doing. And, as they always say, we don't have mountains. That's why I got very involved in, Icon water trails, because we do have lots of rivers. Unfortunately, keeping them in the banks isn't always real easy, but we do have lots of rivers. And I think that's a project that, I got involved in to try to do that. But we're also doing lots of other things, that ABI is very involved with, to really focus on increasing our workforce. Because all those manufacturers, I'm in, when we meet quarterly or whatever, number one thing is I can't find any people.
Always, yeah.
Skilled trades beyond.
Right. I think it's really telling that during COVID, so many businesses, they had layoffs, that sort of thing. Most of our privately held manufacturers, they might not have had anything for them to do, but they didn't lay anybody off because they needed to keep them knowing they'd come out of it.
Yeah, they knew COVID was short term,
right.
and they couldn't afford to lose anybody,
right.
so they had to keep them. We had to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We could not afford to let anybody go, but we basically were not shut down either.
Right,
so.
right. And same with most of these folks.
Yes.
But, we talked about housing. That's one of the things that has changed. When I came to ABI almost 20 years ago, I don't think anybody thought of housing or child care or health care or transportation as business issues. But boy, that's sure changed over time. Those are all business issues. Things like Icon,
yes.
Those kind of community enhancements, boy, those are all important to business and workforce now.
Yeah, we've had to, as a business community, get together and say we got to think out of the box. Right. Just putting up a help wanted sign, which, maybe when we were growing up, that's all they had to do. We have to do a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay,
that's
and not only to recruit, but also to retain.
Right.
Okay,
right.
This younger generation
can
pick on them a little bit. They like to move around a lot.
Yeah.
They like to move around a lot, and so we got to keep them engaged, and that's not easy to do.
There aren't too many people like Rick Tollakson anymore to spend 40 years at the same organization.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. I don't even know with our organization, but, I have my assistant's been with the company 35 years, and my successor's been with the company 30 years.
That's terrific.
So, and we have a number of people that have been there 20 years.
Wow, that's terrific.
That are still, in their late 40s and early 50s.
Wow. I think that's one thing in Iowa that's maybe a little better than other places. You're right, I think, Rick, that a lot of younger people are cognizant that they can move around if they want, but there's still a lot of loyalty here. And to a great employer like Hubbell or Suckup or Atlantic Bottling, I mentioned before, those, they work hard to engender that loyalty by the way they take care of their people.
Well, you can mention Atlantic Bottling because Kirk Tyler was in my Leadership Iowa class. So.
Well, I'll have to,
unofficially sponsored by today, Atlantic Bottling.
I'll have to ask him about any Rick Tollakson stories.
Yeah, you don't want to ask him about that.
We'll wait till the mics are turned off. How's that sound for those? Well, what are you most excited about? I know as kind of talking on the succession and transition, topic, you're getting ready to retire. You're getting ready to take a step back, maybe in some way, shape, or form.
Some ways.
What does that look like, and what are you excited personally for, and what are you excited about ABI, how they have some new leadership too?
Boy, let's start there. My successor, and there was a search, and I'm really glad that the search resulted in Nicole Crane, who is our longtime executive vice president, will be taking over as president. And Nicole is smarter than me, more talented than me, works harder than me, and I think I work pretty hard. She'll do really big things there. We've got a great team and with a great board. She'll do really big things, and she's an idea person. So I'm really super excited for ABI's future. And there's a legislative story that Ron Corbett was a longtime speaker here, and a pretty powerful speaker. Was speaker for a long time, and I think people would rate him high on the list of all-time speakers, and he decided he was going to leave the legislature, and he did. And he was walking out with two of his friends, the House Majority Leader at the time, Brent Segrist, who was going to be Speaker, and then the guy who was going to become House Majority Leader, Chuck Gipp, two state representatives from different parts of the state. And so it's quiet. Ron has just given his speech on the floor and some tears, and everybody realizes something big has happened, and they're walking to their cars, and all of a sudden Brent Segrist leans, Corbett's in the middle, he leans across Ron and turns to Chuck Gipp and says, "Boy, that Roger Corbin, he was a heck of a guy." The point being, that they don't even get his name right.
That's right.
Pretty soon it'll be that Mark Rollins guy was okay, but Nicole's doing big things. Yeah.
I remember, I became CEO 20 years ago, and at my first board meeting after that, they said, "Okay, what's your succession plan?"
Oh, wow.
I said, "Well, I don't know." Mm-hmm. "Well, you got to have a succession plan. Well, if something happens to you, what are we going to do?" Mm-hmm. And then Jim Hubbell looked at me and said, "And by the way, I am not your succession plan."
That's great.
So,
That's great.
I'd been working with Kyle Gamble, who's my successor for some time, to take over, and I gave him plenty of runway and how to do that and everything. And of course, I've already hit him up and said they're going to ask you about your succession plan, and I'll help you out with that. And we got to think about that. How we transition through. And the company is, when I started, the company, we probably had 30, 40 associates. When I became CEO, we had probably 50 or 60. We just had a meeting where I had to give a head count, and we're at 703 associates.
Wow.
So
that's incredible growth.
Well, yeah, but it also means poor Kyle, okay?
Yeah.
I took over like 50 or 60,
Yeah.
okay? He's got to run 700 some people and growing.
Yeah. I sort of feel that way about Nicole. Things were pretty bad when I got there, so I could only go up. But now your plan is like 18 months, right?
Yeah, March of 26.
Okay.
I'd give everybody plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
I will be 72 years old at that point. Much older than you are. You're just a young
in better
whippersnapper. And so it's a transition going through there where I keep pulling myself out of the workday because I want people to go to him with all their problems. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And opportunities.
And opportunities, true.
It's a good thing Claire is on this
Yes.
podcast.
I try.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know how you do it. Your organization is so large and sophisticated, but every year you take these trips with your grandkids. I like to see your posts on X, I'm supposed to say. And
it'll always be Twitter to me.
I think so too, Claire.
Sorry, Elon. But.
Yeah, but it's really amazing.
Yeah, and I got him coming up. So and they inform me. We have an idea of where we want to go, but I'm taking my son and his family to London in December, Christmas Day. We're leaving. And I kept saying, "Have you ever seen those Charles Dickens movies? Winter doesn't look like it's any fun." Right. But we're going to London for a few days and up to Manchester to a soccer game.
Oh, wonderful!
Which is also not on my bucket list, but it is my grandson who's 12 years old. It's on his bucket list.
Well, Manchester's a big soccer. Don't they have two Premier League?
They have
teams?
two Premier League teams there.
Man City and Man United.
Yeah, we're going to Man United.
Okay, great. Old Trafford? No, I can't remember the name of the stadium.
That's Old Trafford, and we're staying at the Old Trafford Marriott Hotel connected to it.
Well, I'll be eager to hear about that one.
I know. Well, and so what are you most looking forward to personally? ABI aside, what does retirement hold for you?
Well, a couple things, I think. One, my wife and I are, I'm really lucky. I married somebody much smarter and more talented than me, and she's been on me this is kind of interesting. She's been on me for 3 years to retire because everybody else in our family is retired on her side and my side. But now that it's happening, she says, I don't know if this was
a lot of time together.
That's right. But we're going to go a couple places warm this winter. We're going to go to Key West. Everybody says that's a fabulous place. I've never been there. And then my parents, my mother has passed, but my dad, they have a place in Palm Springs that they go in the winter. I keep saying that my dad will go, and so we're going to go see him too, and that'll be fun.
Palm Springs is fantastic.
Yeah, we've been there several times.
A lot of Iowans live in Palm Springs.
Yes. Yeah, I was surprised first time.
Yeah.
And then in the spring, I'll start to get pretty serious about some other stuff. I can't say now, but there's a private company I'll be on the board there, and looking forward to that and getting involved in that. And then some other things around the community. And, if the folks at ABI call and need somebody to, lick envelopes or something, I'll do that too.
I was going to say, we're not going to lose you completely here, right? The brain power, the knowledge, the experience.
Brain power left a long time ago, Claire, but I'll be happy to still help however I can.
Well, connecting those dots is so important. I think that you guys are both very, very good at doing that for other people, especially as leaders. What do you want some of this younger workforce, whether you say it with younger workforce, ways or not, what would you, what is some advice that you have for them, or what would you like them to consider as they go about, their careers, whether they stay somewhere 5, 10, 40 years or not?
Well, I'll tell you, Claire and Rick, I'm going to give you a story about the lousy advice I give. So I have a son and a daughter-in-law here in town. My wife and I do, a son and daughter-in-law, and he worked for Ruan. Gosh, Ruan was very good to him and promoted him a couple times. It really just was great. And he came to me and said, you know what, I'm going to start a business. His in-law started a business that became very, very successful. And I said, hey, I think that's great. And it was a gaming business. I don't know anything about gaming. I said, oh, okay. And anyway, he told me all about it, and I didn't get it. But I said, well, that's great. And, while you're working at Ruan and doing this in your spare time, that'll work great. He said, oh, no. I've got to do this full-time or it won't work. I said, oh, don't do that. That's the wrong idea. And, of course, he didn't listen to me, and he did it his way, and he did very, very well. And 3 years later, he sold it, and didn't have to do anything for a while. Now he's back at Ruan. They're very good to him again. And so my point is, my advice is terrible. They shouldn't take it. But we're really fortunate in Iowa that we have such a great the workforce we do have is terrific. You all know. I mean, everybody shows up on time and works hard. And I think the young people in Iowa are like that too. They do like to make sure that their family life and social life is a priority. But, boy, the young people that I know in ABI member companies do really great work and work hard at it. So we're fortunate that way.
Yeah, and we're the same way. So, over time, the workplace has gotten so much more flexible than it did, when we were going through the ranks. And, it is much more family friendly. And, everybody understands, hey, you got a baseball game you got to go to or a soccer game you got to go to. And, your child's sick and you got to stay home and work from home today or whatever. I don't know. I remember what few times I spent with a sick child. I don't know that you could actually get any work done. But,
that's right, I agree. But it's important to do those things.
Yes.
And we talked about retaining employees, and that's one way we can help do it, make sure they know that we value their family time too.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
Is there anything coming up from, as we look ahead to 25 that you want to toss out there from an ABI perspective, or anything else just that you're excited about, opportunities from that manufacturing, that workforce, that economy standpoint?
You bet. A couple things ABI-wise, and I'll talk more generally about the economy if that works for you guys.
Let's do it.
ABI's second most popular event every year is our annual legislative briefing and reception, and we're real proud that we get more legislators of both parties at that event than any other similar event. Part of it is we're statewide, so they almost all come, but, we'll have the governor be there, and I'm eager to see whomever is the lieutenant governor. That person will be there too, I'm sure, and I don't know, that event gets 500 to 600 people, and so that's always a fun way to kick off the year. And so I won't be there, but I'll look forward to hearing all about it. And then we mentioned the June conference. That's going to be in Council Bluffs, and I don't want to disparage anybody in Council Bluffs, but at first they've been trying to get the conference there for a long time. They've been very aggressive, and that's kind of neat. We appreciate that passion to bring us to town, but we had some folks who weren't excited about it. But let me tell you, it's going to be a fabulous event with stuff nobody has seen before, and it's just going to be fabulous. So I'm looking forward to that too. And then ABI's got some stuff. Last year created an initiative called The Coolest Thing Made in Iowa, which was a way to highlight manufacturers. And the ZR5 Baylor from Vermeer Corporation was the winner. And, we had a bunch of neat nominees. There was a cotton candy sausage or something like that. And
That sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible, but I'm told it was good. I didn't try it.
All right.
I'm told it was good. There was a pipe organ manufactured in north central Iowa, a bunch of other stuff that was really cool, and so we'll be doing that again. And then some other initiatives that I know Nicole is thinking of that are going to be really fun. So
That's
really
awesome.
fun about ABI. I'm excited for the Iowa economy too. I think there are a number of good things happening. Again, we've been really fortunate that the governor and the legislature, mostly on a bipartisan way, have focused on policies that pardon me, that allow for growth, and those are all sort of taking root. There's more happening on the Manufacturing 2.0 program. That's all good. And I think the legislature wants to focus on property tax, but what isn't getting a lot of play is they also want to focus on some environmental things that I know you have probably had a part in developing, and so that's all good. The economy looks like it's going to bounce back. Boy, commodity prices in Iowa are tough right now. A lot of our members manufacture things used in agriculture, so they'd like to see those commodity prices higher anyway. But there's some data that indicates that might happen at least in the second quarter, so that'd be good. So a number of things I think happening that should make 2025 a good year. Hope so anyway.
Yeah, it is great within Iowa to have such a strong pro-business, governor for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Debbie Durham and economic development, is a strong advocate for the business community, and I think. All in all, I think both the House and the Senate are also strong supporters of ABI and the business community. It is fun to give the Friends of Business awards out, and we even had one, as you well know, one person that got upset that they didn't quite make it. Yeah, so that's okay too. That's okay too.
And they were Republican, and
they were.
I think they were upset they didn't make it, and that we appreciate that they value that endorsement. And I think the PAC board appreciated the visit that day, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's not some more agreement coming in the future.
I would think so. So. It's just good to see how pro-business they are and how they're willing to work with us, and of course we work with them to help make positive changes in the state. It's fun to the governors have been lowering taxes, and it's interesting. I'm hearing people saying, I'm moving back to Iowa because there's no big tax advantage to live someplace else.
That is good to hear,
and that's encouraging. I wasn't sure that I would hear that, and it's true, but it's nice to hear it.
Right, it is nice to hear it, and that's all that work by the governor and legislature has been purposeful. And you and I know, Rick, I consistently, well, not as much anymore, but people would kind of beat on the governor a little bit. They didn't like this policy or that policy, but we got to see her in the middle of COVID where she took personally the health of Iowans and was really concerned about that. It was her leadership that allowed your business and many ABI members to stay in operation. It was, pardon me, her activity that allowed some of the vaccination clinics and the personal protective equipment to get delivered, and I'll never forget it. And some of the actions she's taken since then are the result of people that came to her during COVID and said, gosh, we've got to, my child needs to be in school, or, we aren't, our local school board isn't listening to us. She's taken a lot of heat for policies that came out of COVID, and this I know, nobody cares more about Iowa than Kim Reynolds, and she's been a terrific leader.
I would agree. Even things that people, we talked about Icon Water Trails. Her and Debbie both have been strong supporters of Icon Water Trails. She gets it. She understands, okay, we have to do what we can to attract Iowa, people to Iowa.
Boy, talk about strong leaders. The governor, Debbie Durham, she's got some great people working for her that are making a difference for all of us.
Yeah, that is true.
We're working on getting her on the podcast, too.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, why not?
She'd be great. I'd like to see and listen to that one for sure.
All right, at least you can tune in. Well, I don't want to cut you guys off. Is there anything else you guys want to cover as we wind down some of our time here? And gosh, when you said the word commodity, I flashed back to my time at IPTV with Mark Pearson, and I'm like, I used to be so much more up to date on all the different things going on.
What a great guy Mark was. We still miss him to this day.
I miss him too.
Yeah, I have one other thing I want to say, Claire, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And he won't like this, but people don't know the leadership that Rick provides to this community, to organizations like ours. And boy, we don't take it for granted. Thanks for all that, Rick, really.
Well, thank you. You gave me the opportunity to get on the board. As I said, we've known each other a long time. I guess that's, when you get to be old, you know people a long time.
You said it. I didn't. Let's leave it at that.
But, your leadership, you always make everybody, you welcome each one of us, and every time you thank us for our time, okay, and put a smile on everybody's face when they walk in. And, we'll miss that a little bit. I know Nicole will have a little different approach.
But it'll be great.
But it'll be great.
Yeah.
She's been doing a fantastic job, and there's nothing to say that, as you point out, she'll do an even better job. And same with me. I'm sure Kyle will make me look.
Kyle's a good guy too. I know Kyle.
He'll look and say, they'll all go, Rick who? Who is he?
I don't know if that's true. Well, time will tell. No, I appreciate you guys telling your stories and giving the insights, because I like to hear the stories. You think, oh, that was a long time ago, or I don't know if it's, the same today or Val's Day. I always think that there's something you can tie in, and you've learned lessons, and I think we all could we could all learn a thing or two. So want to do the off the rails section. That's what we call that here. Off the rails. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, okay.
It's Rick's favorite thing.
Yeah. Not really.
Not really. So the off the rails for this.
It's computer randomly generated.
It is randomly generated.
So
it is randomly generated.
So there's no thought gone into the question.
Excuse you. All right. What's something you learned in the last week? And it can be tiny, be big. Talking about lessons.
I learned that I'm still 100% with political predictions. I'm wrong every time because I didn't get most of the election right.
Well, that's okay. You're not fortunate. You can't see the future. Rick, what's something you learned in the last week?
Well, I spent last weekend with the Des Moines Performing Arts in New York City, going to Broadway shows, and in one weekend I went to 5 Broadway shows, and I didn't know that I was capable of doing that. So yes, and I only kind of fell asleep in one. Okay.
I thought you were going to say you learned to can or something fun like that. That's what I was expecting.
If you would have said that, I'd have to ask to see it.
I do not break out in song or dance.
Isn't Jeff an Iowa treasure?
Oh, he is.
Oh,
he is.
Boy. There's a guy that.
And of course, you grew up in Grundy Center. I grew up in Hampton, and he grew up in Belmont.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He did.
Belmont Clemmy, look at that.
Yeah, woo.
So,
Thank
we
you.
always have conversations about, North Central Iowa and what it's like, and we all grew up there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Fun fact about you that I saw: your dad was a mailman.
He was.
My dad was a mailman.
Really terrific.
Yes.
Great.
Rural mail route guy.
My guy was a city guy in Grundy Center, so yeah.
Different,
but yeah.
Still.
But, raised 5 kids, he and my mother, and
love it.
Everybody's doing okay, so you too?
Love it.
Good.
Yep.
Where did you grow up then?
Menlo,
Iowa. Another great place, Stuart Menlo.
Stuart Menlo, there you go. That's how people usually ping it. Yep.
And she lives on her grandfather's farm.
Great-grandfather than my grandfather. That? It's a century farm. We love it.
Neat.
Yep.
Claire, that's very cool.
Needed a little bit of TLC. Speaking of, that was a COVID project. Thank you, COVID. That's what came out of that.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys both for attending, coming on here, making the time out of your very, very busy schedules, because I know you both have places to go and people to see. And we just really appreciate it. I hope this actually airs on the day of your retirement reception.
Okay.
So we just want to say congratulations again. We hope you truly enjoy whatever lies ahead for you.
Well, I know I will, but this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Well, you can catch Dig It, a real estate podcast by Hubbell Realty Company, anywhere you get your podcasts, or you can see these fine gentlemen's faces on YouTube on our Dig It playlist as well. And with that, we will be back next time.